I never thought the man who once kissed my forehead every night would one day forge my signature to steal $10 million that belonged to me. But when the courtroom went silent, and the judge read the final verdict, the entire city knew whose empire it really was. And my husband, my so-called partner, was left with nothing but shame. My name is Isabella Hart. I was born into privilege, but I never wanted to be defined by my father's wealth. My father, Jonathan Hart, built his fortune brick by brick. From the Wall Street boardrooms to luxury resorts in St. Tropez, his empire stretched far beyond imagination. Growing up in our Manhattan penthouse overlooking Central Park, I never wanted for anything. Designer dresses, private tutors, ballet lessons, summers in the Hamptons, winters in Aspen. My life looked like a glossy magazine spread. But behind the diamond chandeliers and marble floors, I longed for something more. Authenticity. A love not bought with my father's billions. A man who would see me, not the bank account attached to my last name. That's why when I met Michael, tall, charming, and full of ambition, I ignored the cautious whispers from my family. He wasn't from my world. He didn't dine at Michelin-starred restaurants or fly private jets. He worked in finance, yes, but in a mid-level position, hustling through 12-hour days just to prove himself. And I fell in love with that hunger in his eyes. Our love story began simply. No gala events or extravagant proposals. Just late-night coffees, stolen kisses on New York sidewalks, and his warm laughter that made me forget the coldness of high society. When I introduced him to my father, I expected resistance. But to my surprise, my father shook Michael's hand firmly and said, "A man who wants to build, not inherit." I respect that. It was the approval I needed. Our wedding was a fairy tale. The Plaza Hotel ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers, a $50,000 Vera Wang gown draped around me, a string quartet filling the room with melodies. My father gifted us a penthouse on Fifth Avenue as a wedding present. Michael slipped the ring onto my finger, whispering that he'd protect me forever. I believed him. For the next few years, life seemed perfect. Michael's career flourished with my father's mentorship. He learned the nuances of investments, attended exclusive boardroom meetings, and grew confident in circles he once only dreamed of. I stood proudly by his side, blind to the shadows forming behind his smile. When my father passed away suddenly from a heart attack, grief tore through me. But alongside the pain came responsibility. The will was read in a mahogany-paneled law office. I remember the scent of polished wood, the solemn faces, the thick silence when the lawyer announced, "To Isabella Hart, the sum of $10 million in trust, accessible immediately, for her independence and future security." $10 million. The air felt heavy. My mother squeezed my hand. Michael kissed my cheek, his voice low. "Darling, your father truly believed in you." At the time, I thought his words were comforting. I didn't realize they were a mask hiding greed. At first, nothing seemed amiss. Michael encouraged me to take time off, to grieve, to not worry about money, while he handled things. He hired accountants, lawyers, and financial advisors. Men I didn't know but whom he insisted were the best in the industry. Slowly, the documents piled up. Pages to sign. Investments he suggested. Transfers that made sense. He reassured me constantly. "Trust me, Isabella. I've got this. You don't need to stress." And I did trust him. He was my husband, my partner. Until one night, curiosity got the better of me. I was in the penthouse library, searching through old photo albums, when I found a folder tucked behind a stack of papers. Inside were bank statements, my accounts, numbers that didn't add up, withdrawals I never approved, investments in companies I'd never heard of. My stomach turned cold. When I confronted Michael, he laughed it off. "You don't understand finance, sweetheart. These are just reallocations. Trust me, everything's fine." But the gnawing unease wouldn't let me sleep. A week later, I received a call from my father's old attorney, Mr. Whitman. His voice was grave. "Isabella, Are you aware that your husband is attempting to liquidate your trust? My heart stopped. What? He filed documents claiming joint ownership. But there's something strange. Your signature is on the forms, yet I know your signature and this doesn't look like yours. Forgery. My knees gave out. I rushed home, confronted Michael again, this time with fire in my voice. His expression shifted. Not soft, not apologetic, but cold. Isabella, he said flatly, this is for us. For our future. Do you think you can handle 10 million on your own? I'm making sure it grows. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Tears blurred my vision. You forged my name. He smirked. And what if I did? Who's going to believe you? You're emotional. Fragile. I'm the one who's been running the finances. It was like a stranger had stepped into my husband's skin. The man who once swore to protect me was now plotting to rob me. And worse, he believed he could get away with it. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I remembered my father's words. Power isn't loud, Isabella. It's quiet, calculated. And when it strikes, it leaves no survivors. That night, while Michael slept in our silk-draped bedroom, I sat in the study, shaking but determined. If he thought I was fragile, I'd let him believe it, until the moment I took everything back. First, I contacted Mr. Whitman. He became my confidant, my strategist. We gathered evidence quietly, every forged document, every shady transfer. I visited the banks in person, requesting official copies. I secretly recorded conversations with Michael, his dismissive tone, his admissions of handling everything. Meanwhile, I played the dutiful wife, smiled at charity galas, clinked champagne glasses at rooftop parties, held his hand at investor dinners. Let him think he was winning. But behind the scenes, I built my army. I hired a private investigator. He uncovered shocking details. Michael had been meeting with another woman in expensive hotels, using my money. He wasn't just stealing from me, he was betraying me in every way. Each revelation hardened my resolve. Step by step, I crafted the trap. I moved funds he hadn't noticed into separate accounts. I filed quiet injunctions with the court to freeze disputed assets. I instructed Mr. Whitman to prepare for the ultimate confrontation. A lawsuit. The day Michael discovered one of the accounts had been locked, he stormed into the penthouse, rage in his eyes. What did you do, Isabella? I feigned confusion. What do you mean? You froze the funds. I tilted my head. Did I? Or did the bank finally notice all the irregularities? His jaw clenched. For the first time, fear flickered in his gaze. The courtroom battle began weeks later. Marble floors, towering columns, reporters swarming outside. This wasn't just a case, it was a spectacle. The heiress betrayed by her husband. The self-made man exposed as a fraud. Michael's lawyers argued I was incompetent with money, that he was simply protecting our marital assets. But then came the evidence. The forged signatures, the recordings, the investigators' photos of his hotel rendezvous. Piece by piece, his mask crumbled. I sat there in my tailored Chanel suit, diamonds glittering at my ears, while he sweated under the weight of his own lies. The final day of trial, the courtroom was packed. Investors, journalists, even socialites I barely knew filled the benches. The judge, stern and unflinching, read aloud the verdict. After reviewing the evidence of forgery, fraud, and misappropriation, this court rules in favor of Isabella Hart. The $10 million shall remain solely hers. Furthermore, restitution for damages shall be imposed on Michael Hart, and his access to any marital assets is hereby revoked. The gavel struck. Gasps filled the room. Reporters scribbled furiously. Michael's face drained of color. He tried to speak, but no words came. I stood tall, my heels clicking against the marble as I walked out, cameras flashing. For the first time, I didn't feel like the sheltered heiress. I felt like the woman my father raised me to be, unyielding, strategic, victorious. After the trial, I filed for divorce. I refused to let a man who betrayed me ever step foot in my life again. Yes, I kept the 10 million. But more importantly, I kept my dignity. People often ask if I regret marrying him. My answer? No. Because without Michael, I might never have discovered the steel inside me. I rebuilt my life on my own terms. I expanded the inheritance into ventures my father would have been proud of. Real estate, philanthropy, luxury businesses that bore my name alone. And when I stand now at the balcony of my Manhattan penthouse, the city glittering beneath me, I don't think of the man who tried to steal from me. I think of the moment I stood in that courtroom unbroken and reclaimed not just my fortune but my power. Because in the end, betrayal isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of your empire. He tried to steal my inheritance, but instead, he handed me my crown.